All great achievements throughout history have been the result of failing forward. Every goal that you have ever achieved in your life, every success you've ever experienced, it was the result of failing many times before you got there. The same is true for everything you will ever accomplish in your life. Success is always on the other side of failure. Unfortunately, we don't celebrate our failures as much as we should. We should be happy when we fail, because every time we fail, we are one step closer to our goals. If you think about it, if you didn't fail, then you wouldn't be growing. So when you do fail, make sure you celebrate it because you are one step closer to where you need to be. When you get a new idea, when you decide you want to achieve something, then by definition you're going to fail a lot before you get there. So what I'm asking you to do is to reframe your mind so that when you fail, you can celebrate that failure. When you try something new, when you put yourself out there and try something you've never done before, it should be met with celebration, because it means that you are expanding your comfort zone and becoming a better version of yourself. I remember years ago I read a book called Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. In this book, he talks about how you need to set goals, and then, once you set these goals, you want to write them down in detail. And then after that, you want to take some time each day to visualize that goal. You want to see yourself achieving this goal, and you want to feel the emotions that come along with achieving that goal. This is so powerful, and I've done this for many years now, but I've recently stopped. I recently stopped because I realized something. I realized that every time I would go to visualize myself achieving a goal, I was visualizing like I was already there. And in my mind, I was celebrating like I had already accomplished the goal, but I hadn't actually done it yet. So all the celebrating I was doing in my mind was actually premature. It was almost like I was cheating myself because I wasn't actually accomplishing the goal. I was just imagining that I had. So what I've started doing instead is reframing that visualization time as a visualization of myself failing forward. So I visualize myself failing over and over again, trying, failing, trying, failing, trying, failing, getting a little bit better each time until I finally succeed. Then I visualize myself celebrating. And that celebration feels so much sweeter because I know all the things that I had to go through in order to get there. I know all the failures that I had to endure. I know all the times I had to pick myself up and start again. And honestly, it makes the success so much sweeter when you know that you truly earned it, when you know that you went through thick and thin to get there, when you know that you tried and tried and failed, but you never gave up. This is the kind of success that feels good. This is the kind of success that will stick with you for a long time. Now, what happens when we fail? Well, we feel bad. We feel disappointed. We feel discouraged. But what if we reframed that feeling? What if we said to ourselves, this isn't disappointment. This is proof that I'm moving in the right direction. This isn't discouragement. This is inspiration to keep going. Because you can imagine that every single successful person that you know, every single person that has ever accomplished anything in their life, they have felt this way before. They have felt disappointment, discouragement, self-doubt. But they chose to push through anyway because they knew that on the other side of that failure was success. When I first started my channel, I was so worried about what people were going to say. I was worried about all the negative comments. I was worried about how I was going to feel if I put myself out there and then no one watched my videos. I was worried about all the things that could go wrong, but instead of focusing on those negative thoughts, I chose to ignore them and just keep going anyway. Because I knew that if I really wanted to achieve my goal of becoming a full-time YouTuber, then I had to push through those negative thoughts and just keep going. A quote from Tim Harford's TED Talk, "Mistakes are proof that you are trying." If you're not failing, you're not learning. If you're not falling behind, you're not moving forward. We must embrace the unknown. We must be willing to fall behind in order to move forward. We live in a society today where everyone wants to be successful, but no one wants to fail. We live in a society today where everyone wants to win, but no one wants to put in the work. And that's the truth. Success takes work. Success takes dedication. Success takes sacrifice. But if you want to be successful, then you have to be willing to put in the work. You have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to get up and start again. Everyone wants to be successful, but no one wants to go through the growing pains. Everyone wants to be successful, but no one wants to put in the work. Everyone wants to be successful, but no one wants to learn from their failures. If you want to be successful, then you have to be willing to do things that you're not comfortable doing. You have to be willing to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to try new things. You have to be willing to fail. A story about J.K. Rowling. Before she became successful, she was rejected by 12 different publishing companies. She was told that her book was too long and that kids these days aren't interested in reading about wizards. But did she give up? No. She kept trying, and eventually she found a publisher. The rest is history. Harry Potter is now one of the most successful book series of all time. J.K. Rowling's success came after she failed 12 times. The same is true for everything you will ever accomplish in your life. If you want to achieve something, then you have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to put in the work. You have to be willing to go through the growing pains. One of my favorite quotes comes from Thomas Edison. He said, "Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time." This is so powerful. It doesn't matter how many times you've failed. It doesn't matter how discouraged you are. As long as you have one more try in you, then you should keep going. If you're an entrepreneur, then you know that starting a business is risky. The statistics say that the majority of startups will fail. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Because if you don't try, then you'll never know what could have been. You'll never know if you would have been the one who succeeded. If you want to be successful, then you have to be willing to take risks. You have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to try new things. You have to be willing to fail. Another quote from Seth Godin that I love is that the first rule of innovation is that others have to fail first. You always want to be the last person standing. Be the last person standing and celebrate your success. Celebrate your ability to fail forward and learn from your mistakes. In order to become successful, you have to be willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. You have to be willing to take risks. You have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to try new things. You have to be willing to fail. But most importantly, you have to be willing to learn from your failures and keep going. If you're willing to do all of that, then success is within your reach. Just remember to celebrate your failures along the way. I hope this video has inspired you to be bold, to take risks, and to pursue your dreams. Don't be afraid to fail. Failure is just another excuse to try again and do even better. Remember, success is on the other side of failure.